Hello everybody and welcome to Plant Amateur. I'm Tara Gaines and today I want to tell you what to do when you're bringing new plants home. So yes, I brought more plants home. I don't have a good reason. We were just out and shopping. We went to a local market and it just happened that we went to my 3 favorite plant stores and I found some plants. So I will introduce you to those and then I'll tell you everything that I did to welcome these guys into their new forever home. Well, forever is subjective. I mean, I'm gonna cut them up, let's face it. We're gonna cut them up, we're gonna gift them out. Let me introduce them all to you and then I will share my assimilation secrets. I'm just gonna get this first one out of the way because if you've seen it, you're probably shaking your head at me already because it's another begonia. And if you've been with me since the beginning, you'll know that me and begonias are really working hard to make our friendship work. This is a begonia brevimosa. It was sold to me as a begonia brevimosa exotica. My research says that it was also called the begonia Edinburgh. I'm not sure what that is. It could also be the red form. Apparently there's a couple of these. There's lots of different species of begonias. But as you're familiar with my ever-loving struggle with begonias, this guy I think will be a little bit easier since I do have an easier time with the cane-like begonias. That's a cane begonia there. This cute little plant, look at it. Isn't it so cute? And it'll be so easy to propagate. Look at that space in between and it's already making little bushy plants here. It's gonna be super fun. This is a Irisine herbstii. Irisine, not sure. There's also another extension of its name. I'm gonna have to look at this. An Oreo reticulata. Like, not Oreo, not like the cookie, but like an Aurea, like Aurora, but Oreo. Basically, it's the yellow form, right? But this guy, I just thought he was so adorable. And the people at the store didn't know what it was. They gave me 3 different names. And of course, what is it labeled as? What is it labeled as? It's labeled as assorted foliage, right? That's just how those things work. I paid $8 for this little guy and he's gonna be just the cutest little plant. I'm super excited about this one. But yeah, chicken gizzard, brr, Irisine herbstii, Oreo reticulata. I have no idea what this plant is. It's definitely a pilea. It was sold to me as a Pilea depressa chocolate. On one side of the tag, it was a Pilea depressa chocolate. And then on the other side of that exact same tag, it is a Pilea chocolate baby tears. But I just fell in love with this. You might know that I am a huge fan of goth plants. I just think black plants are the coolest. I just got this. It reminds me a lot of my begonia invaculata, my Pilea invaculata. It has very similar leaves, but they're not all black. They have that kind of silvery color on top of them. That was just conveniently located right here. That was really nice for the video. I'm not sure what this plant is. I did look up some stuff and I thought it might also be a ripens. I don't have that plant either, so I wasn't sure. But I think depressa is definitely going down the right avenue, but they're a little bit more green and also smaller. It's just a matter of trying to figure out how to care for it, and finding out its real name kind of helps with that, but it's not gonna stop it from transitioning here and being a happy plant. I will be sure of that. I have to refer to my note here. So the Pilea is a part of the nettle family called Urticaceae. Urticaceae. Anybody want to prophetically help me? Oh shoot, what's that word? Phonetically. Way off. If anybody would like to phonetically help me say that, that would be wonderful. All right, now these two bad boys. I am not bad at keeping calatheas alive. These guys are calatheas formally. Now they are currently known as geopersias. I'm gonna go with geopersia. So we'll just talk about this one first because I got him off the rescue shelf. He was only $9. This is a geopersia or calathea misto. Now I'm not sure because most of his growth is happening down here at the bottom, but he shot out these huge stems. It did not look that sickly. Some of its leaves are absolutely showing signs of being a little bit under the humid side. This one looks like it had been beat up quite a bit. I'm not surprised because they're the tall ones, you know, so they probably got smashed on shelves and whatnot. But the other leaves do look pretty nice and they're holding together really well. I call this Geopersia misto, I call it Ray for Ray Mysterio. I know it's not really misto, but as soon as I heard misto, I was like, Ray Mysterio, action pack, boo, boo, boo. Wrestling. You just can't take it out of me. And this guy, like most calatheas, is non-toxic to plants and humans. I do recommend that you keep your pets and your kids away from your plants, just because everybody's biology is not the same, and that is a generalization. Like, they don't know what it's going to do to you. So just be mindful of that when you're keeping plants around your pets and your kids. This geopersia, formerly calathea, is called the Geopersia Dressleri. It's probably Lyrae, but I'm going to go with Dressleri. It was formerly called Calathea Helen Kennedy. Helen Kennedy was the botanist that I believe that first discovered it in Panama. I literally just read this stuff preparing for this video. I prepared. You're going to have to let me know if this is better than the previous ones. But this guy reminds me of the Camphoria with its crazy leaf patterns. This guy was not on the rescue plant shelf. This guy was just on a main shelf in a more boutique plant shop that I enjoy going to. He did have one sad leaf here with that yellowing. That could either be he was overwatered or he was underwatered, or he was cold, or he got a draft, or he's just an old leaf. But I chose this plant because it has these two new leaves coming out. That lets me know that it got comfortable enough and stable enough in its transition between merchant, my plant shop. It got happy enough to put out these leaves. I don't know how long that process is, but he put out these two giant leaves. He didn't abort them. They look healthy. There's no discoloration on the tips, and that's why I chose this plant. I haven't opened it up and looked at the roots, and I definitely won't. I just won't. I don't need to. It has new leaves. That tells me that it's doing all right, and also there were so many roots coming out the bottom that I didn't need to open it. I'm probably gonna have to transplant it, but I'll see how it does during its transition in my home. And then I saved this last one because I think it's just the coolest thing that I've seen in a little bit. I haven't seen a plant like this before, and when I saw it, I was like, no freaking way is that a peperomia. That is a peperomia. Can you believe it? I can't believe it. I think it's so freaking cool. But this is a peperomia columella. Columnar is another name that it has. And it just has this neatest growth of like this kind of stalk. And the little leaves are so close to one another and they look like little pears, like all stuck on there. It had the most growth of any of the options that were available while I tell you about how I brought these guys into my house. So let's segue right into that. Those big, thick leaves, those are leaves. Isn't that crazy? Let's imagine that you have brought plants home. Now, the first thing you do is rewind and go back to the store. So you're looking at the plant, right? You pick up, you're like, oh my God, I can't live without this. It's so beautiful. And then you get serious. Because this plant, for example, this misto, he was on the rescue shelf. He was at a big discount. He had 4 of these crazy vines when I first picked him up, right? I had to chop off the other ones because they looked gross. But I gave him a good thorough look over. I went in here and I diddled around in his little bases. That sounds icky, right? And apparently I didn't do enough because I'm still seeing more that I want to remove and take out, thin out. And I'm not pulling really hard. I'm just pulling away, and whatever comes away, comes away. Maybe I did that already and it just didn't want to go yesterday. You get in here and you look around. You feel the soil. You see what's happening. You look in the leaves that aren't open yet. You look under the leaves. You look at all of the leaves. You fumble through here. You see if they're dirty. You see if they're scratched. You look for any damage, any pests, any pest evidence. And if you don't know what that is, maybe I'll make a video on that too. Okay, I'm getting off topic. All right, so you look for everything that could possibly make you work harder, right? So for example, I didn't take this plant out of the pot because I can see roots coming out the bottom. So let me know that it's pretty well established in this pot already. It has new leaves opening up and growing out the bottom. There was just a lot of damage on these tall stems. There wasn't any pest damage visible. Like I didn't see anything that caused me concern. I just saw potential maybe overwatering or underwatering, maybe just a transitional stress that the plant had going from grower to merchant, right? But there was no pests, there's no fungal things, there's no spots, there's nothing that gave me alarm not to take this plant home. And I did that with all of these. Every single one of them got a check through just to make sure that they weren't gonna give me trouble. And that's, just for me. This is my project plant. It is pretty much not a project. Some people like that stuff. They like that challenge. So the first step in treating your plants is before you even leave the store with them, before you even buy them. No matter how excited you are, it is a hard and fast rule to check the plants for pests, bugs, mold, fungus, damage, anything that you are going to need to treat when you bring it home, right? Rule number 1. Rule number 2, when you bring it home, do not put it on the shelves with your other plants straight away. Okay, I know how excited you are. Do not do it because things are microscopic and you can't see them with your eyes. I don't care how good you think your eyes are, you are not going to be able to see everything. So those plants need to be quarantined. After you bring them home, you put everything else away, whatever that is, but the plants don't go to their home, okay? They stay on the table, right? They stay there until you are ready to focus on them. Then each plant gets rinsed off. I have a hose in my kitchen on my sink that I can pull off, and I hosed off every single individual leaf. I was very careful with the peperomia because this is like new ground for me. I wasn't sure what to do. Get them home and rinse them. Second thing I like to do is watering them. If it's obvious that they have just been watered at the merchant, don't water them again. Just let them wait for the next step. But everybody gets watered. That way I know when they were watered the last time. It is something to be said that you can just, do the finger test, and then whenever you feel that they need to be watered, then they can just be watered. But the thing with watering plants, the thing that leads to root rot is repeated watering. That means that there's no water that is not escaping. There's not enough time in between for water to go away and for the soil to become aerated or dry or I can't think of a word. But that's what leads to overwatering. Watering plants when they get home, if you're unsure, is not gonna kill them, right? Watering them for like 3 days in a row, watering them every 3 days, depending on what kind of plant they are. Those kinds of things are gonna give your plant danger. So that's why I water them when I come home. And the next thing I do is I treat them. Okay, now I've watered the soil, I've rinsed off the leaves. When the leaves are dry, I like to take them outside and spray them down with neem, right? Tops of the leaves, bottoms of the leaves, full shoots. Depending on where I get it from, I'll also know, because I talk to my merchants about how they treat their plants. Do they give them systemic granules? Do they spray with neem? When was the last time they watered it? Sometimes they know and sometimes they don't know. It really depends on where you're getting your plants from. But I'll spray all of the plants down with a neem oil, a diluted neem oil solution. If I know the place that I bought them from doesn't use systemic granules, I will put systemic granules on the tops of the soil and I'll water that in. I bring them home, I rinse them off, I water them, I treat them for pests, and then the last thing I do is probably the first thing I do, and that's research, because you can't just water plants in full. Like, some plants don't want to be watered fully, right? They don't want to be saturated with water. A lot of plants are very forgiving, but sometimes when you make a mistake, it's not forgivable and the plant just goes bleh after a few days, and it's horrifying. I like to avoid it if I can. I've not lost many plants in almost 2 years. And you know, it's my second year. I'm on my second year right now, and I'm trying to keep my streak going. I've really only killed begonias. Don't listen. Don't listen. So you have to do a little bit of research, and it's kind of easy when you've gotten a lot of plants and you've done a lot of research already, like Geopersias, Calatheas, they all kind of have similar care habits. Pileuas, peperomias, begonias. I'm going to leave the begonias out, okay? Peperomias and Pileuas have generally the same kind of care, not between each other, but in their genus. This plant I had never heard of before, so I needed to do some research on it. And this begonia is very similar to some cane begonias that I also have, so I had to do some research on that before I could do anything. It is important to know a little bit about the plant before you start treating it with chemicals or dousing it with water or anything like that. That would be my thing to do. So you're at the store, you're doing your first thorough check, you're checking for bugs, you're checking the roots, you're checking for damage, you're checking for any kind of strain or stress that the plant has gone under. And then when you bring it home, you're gonna rinse it off, you're gonna water. Oh, I did the order wrong. When you bring it home, you're going to do some research. If you have no idea about that plant, you're going to do some research, which you could also do at the store. You know, if you're like, I don't know how to take care of that, and you look it up and you're like, it wants exactly 4 millimeters of water because it lives in this place that receives the same amount of water every day. You know, like those kinds of things might be a little bit too hard to perform. I wouldn't buy that plant. I rinse them off, I water them, I treat them with my own pest prevention methods, and then I quarantine it. I have most of my plants in this one room, and I have a cabinet in my bedroom, and that is my quarantine cabinet. So when I wake up first thing in the morning, I can look at my new plants and be like, look at my new plants, they're still alive. It kind of makes me feel good. That is what I do when I bring plants home. I check them before I bring them home. I check them while I am performing all of my regular things, the rinsing, the watering, the treating for pesticides, the pest prevention. That is how I take care of plants when I come home. I feel like I should have had a better wrap up. I don't think that was a good wrap up. I think it was just like, ta-da, like that. Yeah. That's what I do when I bring plants home. I hope you guys found this video helpful. I hope I maybe helped your bringing plants home routine, or if you don't know at all, I'm really glad that maybe now you know. Wish this begonia luck. You've been watching Plant Amateur. I'm Tara Gaines. Feel free to do the YouTube thing, like, comment, and subscribe. And I hope I get to see you guys soon. Enjoy yourself. That is generally what I do when I bring plants home. I won't admit to just throwing them in the pile. I'm not gonna say that.